The first client I stole from sent me a thank you card afterward. That's the part people never understand. Corruption doesn't always feel violent. Sometimes it feels polite, professional, like shaking hands across a mahogany desk while someone tells you they trust you completely. I wasn't born into political power. No famous family name. No judges calling my father for favors. What I inherited was smaller, more dangerous in some ways. Respectability. My father owned a small legal practice downtown. Nothing glamorous. Real estate closings, injury settlements, insurance disputes. He used to tell me the law was about stability. People come here because their lives are falling apart, and they need someone who sounds certain. I believed him. By 35, I owned the firm, corner office, tailored suits, expensive clients. People in the city started recognizing me at restaurants. They smiled carefully around attorneys like me. Not because they liked us, because they feared needing us one day. I wish I could say greed was the beginning. It wasn't. Pressure was. The second office location, the mortgage on the lake house, the image I built around myself so expensive it required constant feeding. Clients think successful attorneys are rich forever. Most aren't. Most are drowning quietly beneath appearances. I started gambling after a conference trip in Las Vegas. Nothing dramatic at first. Private poker games, sports betting, small losses that felt temporary. Then the losses stopped being small, and temporary became structural. The first theft happened late on a Thursday evening. Everyone else had gone home. The office was quiet, except for the air conditioning and traffic outside the windows. A settlement payment had arrived for a construction worker injured in a scaffolding collapse. $900,000. Enough money to rebuild his life. I remember staring at the transfer screen, thinking one specific sentence. I'll replace it before he notices. That's how professionals speak to themselves before crossing lines. Not like criminals, like managers solving temporary problems. I created a holding account under a corporate name nearly identical to a legitimate vendor. One extra letter. That was all. The money moved silently. No alarms, no police, no dramatic realization. Just numbers shifting across a screen while rain hit the windows behind me. After that, everything became easier. That's the disturbing part. Not the theft itself, the adaptation. I built systems, false invoices, delayed disbursements, manufactured accounting errors. I learned which clients asked questions and which ones simply trusted signatures on letterhead. Widows were easiest. People grieving rarely examined paperwork carefully. A man dying from lung disease left settlement money for his daughter's college tuition. I rerouted most of it into offshore accounts over 6 months. His daughter sent me a handwritten note afterward. She thanked me for protecting the family during a difficult time. I still remember the shape of her handwriting. The strange thing about deception is how administrative it becomes. Movies portray criminals as emotional, desperate, chaotic. Real corruption is usually organized. Calendar reminders, spreadsheet tabs, scheduled transfers at 2 in the morning. By then, I was stealing from multiple clients simultaneously. One case covered losses from another. Like stacking unstable furniture and pretending balance means stability. I stopped thinking about victims individually. That's when morality disappears, when people become categories instead of humans. My wife noticed the changes before anyone else. Not the money, the silence. I stopped sleeping normally, stopped finishing conversations. Sometimes she'd speak to me during dinner and realize I hadn't heard a word she said. She asked once if I was in trouble. I remember smiling before answering. Calmness is persuasive. That's something attorneys learn very early. If your tone stays controlled enough, people begin questioning their own instincts instead of yours. She accepted my explanations because she wanted to. Most trust works that way. It survives because people need it to survive. The collapse started with a routine audit. Nothing dramatic. A compliance review from outside accountants. One missing transfer led to another, then another. Patterns began surfacing, and patterns are what destroy intelligent criminals. Not emotion, repetition. My partners called me into the conference room on a Monday morning. I remember sunlight hitting the glass table while they slid documents toward me. Questions about discrepancies, forged authorizations, missing client funds. Men I'd worked beside for 15 years suddenly looked frightened of me. And all I could think about was containment. Not guilt, not remorse. Containment. People imagine catastrophic decisions as explosions, but most arrive quietly, like elevators descending, like footsteps in empty hallways. There was a journalist investigating financial misconduct connected to one of my clients. She'd started contacting former employees, requesting banking records, asking questions about settlement delays. And suddenly I understood something horrifying. My thefts were no longer isolated crimes. They were connected to people far more dangerous than me. A client called late one night. His voice sounded calm. That made it worse. He told me scandals spread like infections, and infections had to be contained early. The journalist disappeared 3 weeks later. Police treated it like a missing persons case at first, then an accident. Wrong place, wrong time. I never touched her. That's the sentence I repeated to myself afterward. I never touched her. But I made introductions, passed information, connected people who should never have met. And eventually you realize indirect guilt still arrives at the same destination. Federal investigators seized the firm 6 months later. Computers, financial records, phones, entire offices emptied into evidence boxes. Clients watched the raid from across the street like spectators at a funeral. Some cried. Some looked embarrassed for ever trusting us. That part stayed with me longer than sentencing. Not anger, disappointment. Like they finally understood the building had been hollow the entire time. Prison strips language away from people. Out there, I was counselor, partner, sir. In here, I'm an inmate with arthritis and insomnia. At night, I think about how easily professionalism disguises predatory people. A calm voice, an expensive suit, legal vocabulary spoken confidently enough to suppress suspicion. That's all trust really requires sometimes. And once people hand you trust, you can empty their lives quietly while they thank you for helping them. The first client I stole from died before the investigation became public. Heart failure. His daughter attended my sentencing hearing years later. She sat silently through the entire proceeding. Didn't cry. Didn't speak. Just watched me the way people watch buildings burn from a distance. After sentencing, while deputies escorted me out, she said one sentence, quietly enough that almost nobody else heard it. My father trusted you more than he trusted himself. That's the real crime. Not the money, not the fraud, not even the bodies left behind by people more dangerous than me. Trust. That's what I actually stole.